I went from the best shape of my life to a deflated, demoralized version of myself, all because I got too greedy with my cut. Here's everything I did wrong and what I did this time to get it all back and more. Back in the summer of 2023, I was in the best shape I had ever been. I had just gone through a successful bulking period and a very successful cut. But I was feeling inspired, so I decided to sign up for a marathon. That meant proper running training. However, something that I wasn't prepared for is properly fueling for running. Anyway, after learning that the hard way, I started eating a lot more food, particularly carbs. But then even though I was running a lot more, I was running 60 plus kilometers per week, my body started to change for the worse. And I was not happy with what I was seeing. So I decided to start cutting again. At the time, the plan was just to do a shortcut, just to slim down a bit. However, this entire time I was still building up my running. So if you could imagine starting to build up to 70 to 80 kilometer weeks whilst being in a calorie deficit, that was not good for my body. Despite being in a calorie deficit and running a whole lot, I wasn't losing fat. In fact, I was more just losing muscle. So how is that possible? Well, in this period of being in a calorie deficit, but pushing my body incredibly hard, my body needed the energy and I was not giving it the energy. So it needed to hold on. So it went into survival mode. My body needed to hold on to as much energy as it could and try to reduce how much energy was being used. And what do you think is consuming all this energy? Muscle. So naturally, that was the first thing to go. Despite still training 5 days a week in the gym, pushing myself hard, I was losing muscle, and because of that, it really felt like I was gaining fat. And the worst part of it all, this whole period went on for 6 to 8 months. And from being in a calorie deficit for that period of time, I didn't realize the effect it was having on my life. I was training 2.5 hours per day, but outside of that training, I was not moving. I'd be at my desk or on the couch for the rest of the day. Now that was not a conscious decision, but that was what my body needed. So long story short, I did end up losing a lot of weight, but a lot of it was muscle. Now there's a few things that I learned from this process. First of all, a calorie deficit is not the time to be building up your training load. If you're building your training volume or training for performance or intensity, you need to be fueling your body. If you're trying to lose body fat for aesthetic reasons, a calorie deficit is going to be your key to doing so. But this is not the time to be running marathons. Yes, you should still be training hard in the gym, but you want to structure your meals around your workouts so you do have the energy to train. The other thing I learned is high intensity cardio is not the best way to lose fat whilst maintaining muscle. The key to losing fat and maintaining muscle is in low intensity cardio. So yes, that could still be running, but even better, walking. See, something I do completely differently now is instead of doing all my training and then sitting on the couch or at my desk for the rest of the day, I average 12,000 steps, and that is spread throughout the day. Walking to the gym, walking back from the gym, walking after lunch, or just walking to clear my head. Low intensity cardio has enabled me to maintain a lot of my muscle mass while shredding off a lot of that body fat. Now, the third thing that I've learned is when to call it quits. Being in a calorie deficit for 8 months is a bad idea. I've just been in a calorie deficit for the last 3 months, gradually cutting down with refeed weekends every couple weeks. A refeed weekend is essentially just bringing your calories up to maintenance for a weekend, just to rejuvenate when you start feeling a bit sluggish. But anyway, instead of being greedy and trying to get to 0 body fat percentage, I've decided to pull the plug and move back up to maintenance. And no, that does not mean I'm just going to bulk up and put on a whole bunch of body fat. That simply means I'm just gonna give my body the energy it needs, no more, no less. This is going to enable me to train harder in the gym, build muscle rather than just trying to hold on to what I have, and I'm gonna be able to run more. And the best part is I get to stay lean whilst doing so. So no, you are not meant to stay in a calorie deficit forever, and you should not try to do so. A calorie deficit is designed to be in for a season. If you need help structuring out your cutting process, I'll show you exactly how to do that for free. You can check that out in my free community, which is in the first link in the description. Go check it out.